Scientist. Happy Monday, April 20th. As usual, don't forget to watch the video for your complete participation point. Y'all did great last week. All right, so today you are going to need your homework packet. We're going to grade page 2 first of all. If you would correct that in Shobi, or if you have problems and you need to correct it in Notability, just turn in the corrected one. That would be great. We're also going to need today your Keynote handouts. Those should all be in Notability. All right. Just to get you into the mood.
We're here today to talk about the nervous system.
Hey, wait, hold up, stop the song. Something big just landed on my left arm.
How does your brain know what your senses feel, huh? It's your nervous system getting the job done. Don't think you have nerves in your skin? Well, you're wrong. And nerves are made of bundles of neurons, specialized cells that carry messages fast. Believe it, and they don't even need a messenger bag. Most nerves connect to the spinal cord, and its mission is to act like the highway of your nervous system. The spinal cord zooms the message to your brain, which unpacks the message and tries to explain what it means, and the brain controls your response. In this case, it says,
move your left arm.
That message goes back, spinal cord to nerve. Your arm moves, you squash the bug in a bird. Word, the central nervous system is the name that pertains to your spinal cord and your brain. And the other neurons and nerves in a different position, they make up the peripheral nervous system, abbreviated as CNS and PNS. Saying the full lines will leave me out of breath.
Chilling with the systems, I'm like, oh hey. Moses with the neurons, spinal cord, and brain, controlling everything I think, do, and feel.
That's the nervous system, y'all. You know the deal.
Okay, so while we're there, I am going to explain. If you're looking in Google Classroom, you see at the very end a Flipgrid challenge. All right, so here it is, and I will link it. So you are going to watch the attached video. I just gave you a little taste of it. It gets even better. You then, for 3 Smart Smarts, count them 3, and you definitely may come and redeem all of these. Even though we're not going to school now, we will be there. And you can absolutely come and redeem your Smart Smarts. 3, just for recording a video explaining something that you learned or understood better because of this video. This video really does a good job of explaining. But for 10, count them, 10 Smart Smarts, you dancers out there, record a dance, like a TikTok, to the chorus that starts with the chillin' with the systems. Oh, hey, that one. And then if anybody is going to comment, make sure they are positive only. And I'll give you till Friday for that. I'll keep that open. So I will link that. So you all, if you would like to participate, but you definitely want to watch that whole video because it's awesome. All right, go ahead. Let's correct page 2 in your homework packet. So go ahead and pause and then just make sure that you have the correct answers here. I really do want you to correct any that you have that are different. Highlighting here the term stimulus is any change inside or outside of your body that brings about a response. The neurons are made up of a cell body and branches on either end. Dendrites receive the messages. Axons carry them away to the next neuron. We're going to be talking about the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. Now, it's all of the nervous system, but it's divided into 2 divisions. So the central nervous system is the brain and spinal cord. You can refer to that as the CNS. The peripheral nervous system are all of the nerves that connect your brain and your spinal cord to the rest of your body. We're going to be talking, not today, but later on, about a reflex. So this is an automatic much faster response that's controlled by the spinal cord. So that message doesn't go all the way up to the brain. It just goes to the spinal cord and then quick leads to your response. All right. Your body has 5 senses, and these are the receptors for your eye, the rods and cones. The optic nerve is what sends the impulses, or those send impulses to the optic nerve in your brain. The visual area of your brain interprets the image you see. Hearing, the stimulus or the sound waves. Smell. For you to smell something, things have to be in a gas state. So the molecules in the gas state are what stimulate the nerve cells called olfactory cells. Those, again, are the receptors, and then those trigger the message that goes to the brain. That stimulus is interpreted, and then you realize what it is you're smelling. For taste, the receptors are taste buds. And for touch, you have those sensory or touch receptors. Okay, so a synapse. The neurons don't actually touch each other. So to get from one neuron to the next, an impulse, and remember the impulse is the actual message, has to move across a small space, and that small space is called a synapse. So what you're looking at here is an impulse only moves in one direction. It has to go from an axon, so the direction of the impulse is going to be here. You've got the impulse coming from, this is the first neuron, so the impulse had come to the dendrites, then to the cell body, then to the axon, and then these axon processes, they look like they're touching the next neuron, but they're not actually. So here, what you're looking at right here is blown up right here. So this is the end of that axon branch here of this neuron, and this is the surface of this next neuron. And you see that space there? So when an impulse reaches the end of an axon, a chemical called a neurotransmitter is released by the axon, and then that chemical diffuses across that synapse or the space, and then that triggers the impulse to continue in the dendrite or cell body of the next neuron. So in that way, an impulse is going to move from one neuron to the next. And again, it's always going to go in the same direction. So here, just a little bit larger look here. So this again is the end of that axon branch. And then when that signal gets to the end of that axon, those chemicals or neurotransmitters are released so that that signal can go across the synapse onto the next neuron.
The relay neurons make connections with other neurons across gaps that are called synapses. So let's have a look at how synapses work. Synapses are a junction between two adjacent neurons, and the electrical impulse has to cross the junction to carry on its journey. The electrical impulse arrives along an axon. This triggers the release of a chemical neurotransmitter, which diffuses across the synapse and binds with the receptors on the membrane of the next neuron. This stimulates the second neuron to generate a new electrical signal. Synapses not only connect two or more adjacent neurons together, but they also allow the nerve signals to travel in one direction only, and they also control the speed of the signal.
So there it is. There's the synapse. The neurotransmitter is released to start the signal in the next neuron. Okay, so organs of the nervous system are grouped into two major divisions, like I had mentioned earlier. So you have the central nervous system, or the CNS, which consists of the brain and the spinal cord. The peripheral nervous system are all of the nerves that are connecting the brain and the spinal cord to absolutely every part of your body. This is the highway system. So again, central nervous system is the brain and the spinal cord. The brain coordinates all of your body activities. So if somebody pokes you in the ribs, not that anybody would do that, your whole body is going to react. Your neurons are made in such a way, like you just saw, that the impulse is only going to move in one direction, and they send those impulses and they move from a receptor, in this case it would have been a touch receptor, to the brain, or if it's a reflex, it's going to go just to the spinal cord. So your brain, we're going to talk about your brain first. It is made of approximately 100 billion neurons. So we're only going to talk about the three major divisions: the cerebrum, which is the largest part. Let's see if I can get see if you can see this. Oh, there it is. This is my brain model. So that's the cerebrum. Now if I cut my brain in half, not my brain actually, so that's what you're looking at there. That's better. This is what you're looking at here. It says, it's like I cut it in half, and now I'm looking inside. There we go. The other is the cerebellum. So this would be the cerebellum right here. Kind of looks like a walnut almost. And then you've got the brainstem. You're going to hear in a video later, it's going to talk about the medulla. The brainstem actually is divided into three sections as well, and the medulla, when they mention that as being the same thing as the brainstem, it's actually the lower part of the brainstem. This is a miracle. Only weighs about 4 pounds, and it consists of those three main structures we talked about: the cerebrum, the cerebellum, and the brainstem. You're going to need to know what each of these parts of the brain control. So the cerebrum, the main portion of the brain, it's divided into two hemispheres, forming the largest part of the central nervous system. So this is where those impulses from your senses that we've been talking about, this is where they're interpreted. And if I were you, even in your notes, I would highlight this because you are going to need to know this. So in the cerebrum, impulses from the senses are interpreted or decoded. This is where memory is stored. All of those wonderful memories you have about science class. This is where they're stored. Your voluntary muscles are controlled here. So these are the ones that you choose to move. It's got all those grooves and ridges, and like you heard what that does, it increases the surface area and allows more connections. Now, if you look here, all of your brain different sections of it. And I mean, we're talking very specific sections control different parts of your body and different functions that you do. And you can see here just a few. If you wanted to, if this interested you, research this. This is just very, very minimal. Again, here you can see how divided it is. All right, so the cerebrum, again, the largest part of the brain. This is where thinking, memory, and voluntary movements are controlled. Again, impulses from the senses are interpreted here, so you know what it is that you're seeing, smelling, tasting. The cerebellum. So this is that part below and underneath the cerebrum. This is what coordinates your muscle movements, helps you to maintain balance and muscle tone. The cerebellum interprets stimuli from your eyes, ears, and muscles. So once again, you're getting signals from your eyes and ears and muscles because all of those work together for balance and for movement. And again, maintains muscle tone and balance. The brain stem. So this is found again at the base or the bottom of the brain, and this is what connects the brain to the spinal cord. So the brain stem acts as a relay station because impulses are coming here and then they're sent to the right part of the brain where they need to go. The brain stem also controls all of those automatic life-maintaining things like your heartbeat, your blood pressure, your breathing, and involuntary muscle movements. That's happening in the brain stem. So it connects the brain to the spinal cord. It's made up of the midbrain, the pons, and the medulla. And so again here you can see the brain broken down and labeled. And once again, mapping the brain is a huge area of study right now. I think is fascinating. Okay, just to sum things up for you.
Do you know how we understand when something is hot or cold, or when something is sweet or bitter? Okay, it is our nervous system, which controls all of our senses, like taste, touch, sight, smell, etc. But, do you know what the nervous system is? Okay. Let me explain about the nervous system. The nervous system controls all the actions of our body. It has two parts, the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. The central nervous system is comprised of the brain and spinal cord. The peripheral nervous system consists of many nerves, which are spread throughout the body. Let's first understand the brain, its parts, and what they do. Our brain is the most complicated organ of our body. It has three major parts, the cerebellum, cerebrum, and brainstem, which is also known as the medulla. The cerebrum is the biggest part of the brain. It controls our senses, our imagination, and our thoughts. So, whatever we see, touch, taste, smell, think, or imagine is controlled by the cerebrum. The second major part is the cerebellum. It is known as the little brain. It controls our motion, balance, and our ability to learn new things. For example, you can walk without falling because of the cerebellum. Also, it helps with learning any new thing. The third major part is the medulla. It is also known as the brain stem. It does a few things, which are called involuntary actions. It controls our digestion, heartbeat, and breathing. These things happen automatically in our body. We don't have to put any effort here. So now you know about the brain. Can you remember it all? Good. The cerebrum is in charge of sensing, thinking, and imagination. Wow, you're right. The cerebellum is also responsible for muscle movement and control, and it also helps us in learning. Great. You're right about the medulla also. It is running our body from the inside. Now, do you want to learn about the peripheral nervous system? The peripheral nervous system is made up of many nerves, which are present throughout the body. The peripheral nervous system has two functions. Some nerves receive information, like when you taste something. These messages are carried to the brain by these nerves. The nerves which take the message from senses to the brain are called sensory nerves. Other nerves carry messages from the brain to the body. These are called motor nerves. They carry instructions from the brain to the body on what action to take. Like, for example, if you were eating chili, which the brain told you was bitter. So now you're doing a spitting action. All nerves are made up of neurons. A neuron has three major parts: a nucleus, which is the cell body, dendrites, and the axon. Dendrites take in the electric messages to cell bodies. Axons take the message away from the cell body. So dendrites are like entry to a parking lot, and axons are the exit route from parking. So, buddy, do you now know why the brain is important?
Yes, you do. Okay, so just to sum up, your homework is packet page 3 and 4. So this is page 3 and page 4. Okay, now I want you to look here at page 3. Some of you are going to get a little frustrated because you're not going to find the exact term. So I want you to just kind of think through this. So for example, this graphic organizer, it's giving you a blank and then it's saying such as noises. Okay, so what could be a noise? Or internal changes. Whenever you have an or, it's usually opposite, yes? So something or internal changes such as, so what would be the opposite of internal changes? External changes. Both are, what do we call those changes that bring about a response? You see how I'm doing this? So don't worry if you don't have exactly the same thing. I just want you to really think through this and try and come up with answers that really make sense based on what you're learning and what you know. Don't forget here, you're sequencing, putting in order the structures of a neuron. So these are going to be 3 parts of the neuron. And here, you're just taking the nervous system, and you heard about 2 different divisions of the nervous system, and then what make up those 2 divisions of the nervous system. Okay. You are going to have a Google reading check on Thursday over that same reading, so there's no new reading even for this assignment. It's all from chapter 15, section 4 on the nervous system. And don't forget about the Flipgrid challenge. I'm telling you, you're going to love it.
Day to talk about the nervous
I will
system.
have
Wait, hold up.
office
Stop the
hours
song.
if
Something
you
big
want
just landed on my
to check in
arm.
or if you have any
Does your brain know
questions.
what your senses feel, huh?